people with expired non-disclosure agreements, what's the juicy info you can now tell us?
Before we start, make sure you smash the subscribe button along with the tiny bell icon so you get updated every time we post new videos. Done? Great, let's start this video.
Scritext says, as an investor I was pitched a 10% stake in a company that owned the trademark iWatch, and their whole value weighed on Apple buying the rights from them. I declined. About a year later Apple revealed the Apple Watch, and I sighed with relief. Mel Dell says, my mom had an NDA while sitting on a grand jury for over a year. I prodded her all the time on the case and what she was doing for over a year of her life. She refused to tell me, only saying that, you have to be very careful about what's said on the phone, you never know who's listening. But you'll know what I was doing when the story breaks. Okay, so a few months later I walk into work and see on the TV that our governor was indicted for corruption, including selling Obama's vacant Senate seat when he became pres in 2008. Rod Blagojevich then paraded all over TV, including on The Apprentice, to tout his innocence and beg PPL to listen to the tapes that exonerated him. Yeah, okay dude. I have different information. G's USROL says, my grandfather was military, and right after World War II was doing some top-secret stuff in a plane hangar, somewhere in Texas, I think. He was not even allowed to discuss the details with his wife, my grandma, and a bunch of military higher-ups would occasionally interview both grandma as well as the neighbors, to ensure he hadn't said a word. Then there was an event, and he started screaming at the TV, there's my plane, babe. The plane I've been working on. They shot it down. You may know of the high-altitude U-2 planes that the US was using to spy on the Soviets during the Cold War? Yeah, he was the engineering building those babies. That was his top-secret project. Grandma found out when the story broke after one of them got knocked out of orbit. Ms. Viola Swamp says, my mom was selected for jury duty on a case where Russian thug had been charged with giving an informant a TBI. He ended up being found guilty and my mom received a text in Russian about a week later. She didn't think much of it, but I demanded that we translate it because how often do you get a wrong number in Russian? It said something to the effect, thank you, I see the error of my ways. Pretty crazy if you ask me. Dr. Smeagol says, I worked for an aviation company that, among other things, did charter flights. I had an NDA that I would not reveal who was traveling with us and where they were going. This was for client privacy, as some people are wealthy, famous enough that they're targets for paparazzi, or even espionage, kidnapping, extortion, etc. So now that it's expired, I can tell you that a minor country music star flew with us when his regular jet broke down, that the CEO of the local food processing plant goes to his Florida house about twice a month, and that's about it. Nothing exciting. Play-Doh Pants says, I worked with Pinewood Studios on the engineering for the effects of the fairy in Spider-Man Homecoming to split in half and I wasn't allowed to spoil that. Nukem33 says, still another 65 years before I can reveal the outdated 1980s designs for my nuclear submarine. All the people at the retirement home are going to lose their minds. Just gimme any old name says, the state of Oklahoma once busted a counterfeit check ring because the individuals misspelled Oklahoma on the front of some checks. They were damn near perfect copies with valid account, check and amount numbers and were caught when an employee who ran a reader-sorter machine noticed a rejected check with the spelling Oklahoma. I was that employee and had to testify in court regarding finding the checks. I think I'm still not supposed to talk about certain details, even though it was a long time ago. Cisco54 says, I served on a board that had kidnap ransom insurance for all the board members. A condition of the insurance was that we could tell no one that we had kidnap ransom insurance. LNX64 says, it's not much, but I was part of developing AirDrop for Mac OS X Lion 10.7, and was doing this on a 2008 Mac Pro. In the end, we were told it's not to be made compatible with 2008s and require a 2009. That made no sense because I was successfully testing it on the 2008 just fine. It was a planned obsolescence, a ploy to force users to buy a new Mac. Upset, I secretly released a patch on MediaFire for owners of a 2008 to get AirDrop. It didn't require much as I made the lockout as cheaply as possible. I also did development of USB 3.0 support and also did this on my 2008 Mac Pro. I should mention that this Mac Pro is a prototype with a unique firmware that has an inside BIOS setup with all options available for debugging, of which Apple never asked back, and I still have today in my office as my daily driver. It has no serial number and refers to itself as a prototype in any software trying to get a board revision. It also doesn't run retail Mac OS, hence I said BIOS earlier. It doesn't have EFI, so it runs Windows 10 today with a GTX 1050 installed, and still has the USB 3.0 card I had during development. Before anyone asks, no, I didn't steal it. I asked my supervisor if they wanted it back, and he told me to keep it. They had no use for it. Humanly Capable says, I was once on the camera crew of Pimp My Ride and most of the show is fake. The guys knew ahead of time that we were arriving, the car had to be fully paid off, and most of the work done has to be paid for in almost full. LadySalot1 says, I still don't wanna say who, but a major jewelry store took my rings for resizing and promptly lost them, and by lost they meant an entire truck of jewelry was stolen. They kindly offered to replace my priceless to me rings with equal value rings. Ha! Ha 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 ha, no, they replaced them with rings twice what the others were worth. I'd take back the originals in a heartbeat, sad face, but they replacements are nice. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Comment below if you want us to cover a subject topic of your choice.